Hey scholars, it's Miss Colma here, and we are back to our usual videos because we are all done with Domain 10 about the American Revolution and how our country got started. So today we're starting a brand new domain called Frontier Explorers. Frontier Explorers. So this is going to tell us kind of what happens immediately after the war, after George Washington became president, and we're going to hear about how people sort of gradually moved into more and more of what became the United States. So our first read aloud today is all about Daniel Boone and the opening of the West. So we're going to hear all about Daniel Boone and the opening of the West. So let's get started. We'll have scholar shoutouts. We don't have any at-bats because we are starting a new domain. We'll go over the objective and the vocabulary words. We'll go through the read aloud. I'll take you through a few check my understanding questions, and I'll walk you through our packet work for today. A couple of quick reminders. On Tuesday or Thursday, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, someone can bring your packet to the school, drop it off, and pick up a brand new one to get you through to the end of the year. So make sure you have all your work done so you can turn that packet into us, okay? Some real quick shout outs for the scholars who sent me pictures of their paragraphs about a founding father. From ISU, there are 4 of you who really sent me some amazing pictures of your awesome work. Thank you so much. You guys really picked a variety. I'm so surprised. I expected a lot of you to pick George Washington since that's what I modeled, but so many of you picked Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin. So thank you so much for diving in and using those graphic organizers to create some awesome paragraphs. And from Ashford, there are 6 of you. There are 6 of you who really sent me some awesome paragraphs. And again, every paragraph that I've gotten, every picture of work has been exactly what I needed to see. You're showing that you're really taking your time. You're using your best penmanship. You have capital letters. You have periods. And a lot of you also went back and made your sentences stronger when you edited before writing your final draft. So if you are one of those 10 that I'm shouting out right now, you know exactly who you are. Keep up the awesome work. It looks so good, you guys. So you know that this means we're getting into start to get ready to go into our objective. Objective, we learn all about it. I can identify the Appalachian Mountains on a map and describe why they were a barrier. Vocabulary. Our first word is barrier. Our first word is barrier. A barrier is something that blocks movement from one place to another. Something that blocks movement from one place to another. The Appalachian Mountains were a natural barrier to moving west. Our next word is claimed. Our next word is claimed. Claimed means to have something that belongs to you, even if others might not agree. He claimed the basketball was his, even though his name wasn't written on it. Our next word is frontier. Our next word is frontier. Frontier is the area of North America west of the Appalachian Mountains that had not yet been explored or settled by European settlers. So this is the part of the country far west. This is west of where the colonies are. Lewis and Clark explored the frontier. The next word is settlements. The next word is settlements. Settlements are places where people make their homes in a new area. The family decided to leave their homes in Europe and move to the settlements in America. Our final vocabulary word for today's read aloud is woodsman. Our final vocabulary word is woodsman. Woodsmen are people who live or work in the forest. The woodsmen were able to build shelters out of tree branches. The woodsmen were able to build shelters out of tree branches. All right, we're moving into where are we? Where are we? So every read aloud, of course, we talk about kind of where we are in history or where we are in the world. And today we're talking a little bit about some of the history that leads into the read aloud. So where are we? We all know Native Americans were the first people known to live in North America. You learned about a lot of these Native Americans in kindergarten. Oh, if you know who this is, shout it out right now. Shout it out. We know Christopher Columbus traveled by ship to the continent of North America, 1492. We saw this picture in our last domain. After Columbus's voyage, more and more groups of people from different countries in Europe decided to make the trip across the Atlantic. One of those groups was the Pilgrims, who landed at Plymouth Rock, of course. And you all recognize this document, the Declaration of Independence. Before the United States became a country, there were 13 colonies ruled by the British king and government. We just heard all about this. The 13 colonies declared independence. This is that Declaration of Independence that was written by Thomas Jefferson that a lot of you talked about in your paragraphs about Thomas Jefferson. In today's Read Aloud, we're going to really quick review what we learned in the last domain about the early history of the United States and the people who lived there, like the Native Americans. We're also going to hear about one of the first explorers of the American West, Daniel Boone. And I want you to listen to hear about Daniel Boone and the difficulties or challenges he faced as he moved west. Okay, so let's go ahead and sing our song. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Who's gonna win the GLP? Backs are straight, legs crisscross, hands in star, and we'll go far. Today, people from all over the world live together in communities from one end of the North American continent to the other, from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific Ocean in the west, and everywhere in between. This map of North America shows the United States in green. You can see a lot of thin white lines outlining the states that make up our country, the United States of America. However, hundreds of years ago, the map of the United States was much smaller than it is today. Long, long ago, the only people who lived on the continent of North America were people known as Native Americans. Native Americans have lived in North America for thousands of years. Native Americans lived in both seasonal and permanent villages. They used great knowledge of the land and its resources to create a number of villages and cultures. At the same time, far away on the other side of the ocean, many other people had their own towns and villages. These people lived on the continent of Europe and were known as Europeans. So Europe in this picture is in yellow, so point to the yellow part of the map. Yeah, that's Europe. About 600 years ago, Europeans began to leave their lands and sail to other parts of the world, seeking spices, gold, and other riches. Some of these explorers arrived in North America. North America is purple on this map, so go ahead and point to North America that is purple. Got it? Now take a moment and draw a line back and forth from Europe to North America. Europe to North America. They were leaving Europe and going to North America. Imagine how surprised Native Americans and Europeans must have been to see each other. People who looked, dressed, and spoke very differently from themselves. The early explorers who came to North America were mostly interested in finding goods and riches that they could take back to Europe to sell. Many of these explorers learned vital skills from the Native Americans who knew the land very well. So vital skills are skills that are extremely important to someone's survival. We're going to hear about other vital skills in this read aloud as they apply to these explorers and these settlers. Native Americans taught the Europeans many skills, including hunting, fishing, gathering, and farming. In exchange for their help, Europeans brought things to trade with Native Americans, such as cloth. For many years, Europeans traveled back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean. Some Europeans were content or satisfied to just trade with Native Americans, but others became interested in starting settlements because they wanted to live on the continent as well. Settlements are places where people make their homes in a new area. The English started two early settlements in North America in the 1600s, Plymouth in what is now Massachusetts, and Jamestown in what is now Virginia. There was also a third one we learned about way at the beginning of Domain 10, the Lost Colony. If you remember it, go ahead and send me a text. At Plymouth, Native Americans helped the settlers survive. Do you remember how at Plymouth they celebrated their harvest together, the first Thanksgiving in America? The Europeans would not have been able to grow the corn and squash for that meal without help from the Native Americans. As time passed, More and more Europeans came to live in North America, often encroaching on Native American land or gradually taking the land that belonged to the Native Americans. Fights over the land arose. Eventually, settlers claimed most of the land on the east coast of North America, land where the Native Americans had lived for many, many years. The word claimed means that the settlers said the land belonged to them, even though the Native Americans had been living on that land for thousands of years. The English formed colonies or settlements controlled by faraway England from Massachusetts all the way to Georgia. Now we know what happens next. Eventually, some of the more adventuresome settlers wanted to explore land to the west of them. One of these was a young man by the name of Daniel Boone. And here we come to the big idea for today's Read Aloud. Daniel Boone was born in 1734 near the town of Reading, Pennsylvania. His father and mother owned a farm. Daniel and his brothers and sisters helped their parents plow the fields on the farm. But Daniel was never content in the open fields. He was curious about life in the woods around their farm and spent as much time as possible creating paths through the forest. He made friends with young Native American boys who lived in the wooded areas. They taught Daniel how to move silently through the forest, how to trap wild animals, and catch fish in the streams. Daniel learned how to use a knife and tomahawk at an early age. His father, seeing how interested Daniel was in hunting, taught Daniel how to use a special type of gun called a rifle. It was common for people to learn hunting and survival skills during this time in history, which is very different from today. Today, most people have the option to buy food and other things rather than hunt for these resources themselves. One day, while helping his father plow the fields, Daniel asked if he could be allowed to help the family in another way. "Father," he said, "since you have taught me to shoot a rifle, I have practiced and practiced until I am the best shot for miles around. Let me hunt for food for our family." Daniel's father agreed, and soon the Boones were feasting on wild turkey and deer. In 1750, just before Daniel turned 16, the Boone family moved from Pennsylvania to the Yadkin River Valley of North Carolina, settling at the edge of the frontier. It did not take long for the other settlers in his new home to discover that Daniel was one of the best woodsmen for miles around. There's that vocabulary word, woodsman. They're people who live or work in the forest. So Daniel Boone lives and works in the forest. Daniel began to explore his new surroundings. His explorations took him deep into the forest. He heard tales of buffalo to the west and wanted to try hunting other animals other than the plentiful deer and bear that lived in the woods nearby. But Daniel was unable to go as far west as he wanted to go. Something was stopping him and the other settlers from traveling farther west. Can you guess what it was? There were enormous mountains standing in his way. These mountains are called the Appalachian Mountains, and they stretch for miles from the present-day state of Maine all the way to Georgia. The mountains were heavily wooded, making them difficult to cross. They formed a natural barrier and blocked movement from one side of the mountains to the other. For this reason, few European settlers had left their colonies along the eastern coast of North America to travel west. But Daniel knew that Native Americans had crisscrossed these mountains for many, many years. As he roamed through the densely forested hillsides, his curiosity about the West grew stronger. Daniel began to ask everyone he met if they knew of a way to cross the mountains. And that's it. That's it for our Read Aloud. Wow, what a cliffhanger. You know how Miss Colma feels about cliffhangers, man. So, a few quick questions to check your understanding and an alternative question to text Miss Colma, right? So you can either text me if you remember the name of the lost colony. If you don't, that's fine. There's a question in here, though, that I want you to text me the answer to along with a picture of your awesome, awesome work. Where did Daniel Boone live? Where did he live? Where did Daniel Boone want to live? Where did he want to live? What kept the English settlers from moving further west across America? What kept the English settlers from moving farther west across America? would you describe Daniel Boone? This is the answer I want texted to me. How would you describe Daniel Boone? This can be a sentence, this can be a video, this can be just 2 or 3 words, but how would you describe Daniel Boone? How would you describe this man who traveled through the woods, who learned how to hunt, who was the best woodsman for miles around, who longed to cross those mountains? How would you describe Daniel Boone? Now, here are your packet pages. This is exciting. I want you, if you have crayons at home, great. If not, you can write these words where I've asked you to write them. But if you have crayons, colored pencils, markers, this is what I want you to do on this page. I want you to color the Appalachian Mountains brown. And then you'll notice a little bit past the Appalachian Mountains is the Mississippi River. I want you to color that blue because those are both going to be super important as we move ahead in this domain. So color those Appalachian Mountains brown, color the Mississippi River blue. And then there's some lines where I want you to write a beautiful restate answer. Your guys' restate answers have been so awesome. Why were the Appalachian Mountains a barrier for settlers? Why were the Appalachian Mountains a barrier for settlers? You can really easily, this is where in the year I would stop giving you restates because I want you to try to piece this restate together for yourself. Why were the Appalachian Mountains a barrier for settlers? They were a barrier because. And that is it for our lesson today. I hope you are as excited as I am to learn more about these real adventures. You know, we read stories and we talk about people who are adventurers and like all these great adventures. This is an incredible moment for us to step back in history and find out who some of our actual adventurers were in early America. So let's get ready to learn so much about these awesome people and the amazing adventures they had. Text me your thoughts on Daniel Boone. Send me that picture of your work, your awesome restate answer about the Appalachian Mountains. Stay home, stay safe. I miss you all so much. Bye. See you next time.